Hello everyone, welcome to today's CCOF webinar, The Giant Leap, Disruptive Changes to Customer Contact Technology. I will go through a quick round of introductions before we get started. CCOF is a unique forum that brings customer experience professionals together onto a platform where they can be informed and inspired. The event is being brought to you in partnership with Vernacular.ai. I am Shraddha Kanoria, Sales Enablement and Digital Marketing Manager at Vernacular.ai. Our presenter today is Mr. Subramanya C., Global Chief Technology Officer at Hinduja Global Solutions. With over 27 years of experience in the technology domain across multiple industries, he spearheads various aspects of conceptualizing and commissioning of BPM and other ITS operations. An exceptionally talented leader, he was nominated amongst the top 100 CIOs in 2006 and 2007. And he has been awarded the 30 most talented leaders of the outsourcing industry at the Asia BPO Summit in 2014. Widely known in the industry as a speaker on various BPM forums and technology conferences, he is well connected with all major OEMs and is recognized for his techno-commercial knowledge in the IT or ITES vertical. Our moderator today is MD, who is the founder of this forum. He is an alum of IIT Madras, Michigan State University, and Stanford Business School. He has been an industry veteran for 32 years and an entrepreneur for the last 18 years. He was the first managing director of Dell International Services and is one of the pioneers of India's contact center industry. Currently, he is a mentor to many startups and a passionate customer experience advocate. Now, a few tips to ensure you have a great webinar experience. You can submit a question at any time during the webinar in the Q&A box. All attendees have been muted to avoid any inadvertent disturbance. An important note, post your questions only in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. MD will be monitoring your questions and he will ask them during the Q&A breaks. Now, without further ado, let me hand things over to MD.
Thank you, Shraddha. Before we get started, I want to add a few more words about Subbu. I've known Subbu now for nearly 17 or 18 years. I first met him when I visited Hinduja Global Solutions, I think in 2003 or so. I was part of an evaluation team at the time. I vividly remember Subbu presenting the tech infrastructure of his company. What stood out was not just the infrastructure that he had built, but also his great passion and enthusiasm with which he explained it and described it. Now, after a very long period, by the way, just a few weeks ago, I got in touch with him again. We've been kind of in touch only a little bit over email and so on, but I spoke to him after 17 years to invite him to speak with us. And I should not have been surprised. His enthusiasm was still the same. His knowledge, of course, had gone up exponentially. And without any hesitation, I can say he's one of the country's experts in call center technology. And it's a great honor for us, Subbu, to have you with us. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, MD. My pleasure to be collaborated with you.
And also, I want to reiterate what Shraddha had just mentioned. Please post your questions only in the Q&A box, not in the chat box. I'll be monitoring the Q&A box and then asking Subbu these questions whenever he gives us a break. With that, Subbu, all yours.
Thank you very much, MD and Shraddha. I think what I will do is, first, as I don't think I need any more introduction, because I think there's a good amount of introduction done by MD and Shraddha. I can just speak about a little about my company, because it makes justice for me to really do that. Because as what MD said in 2003, I joined this company in 2000. I was just sharing with MD. I'm almost completing 20 years with HGS. When I joined this company, literally like talking about the evolution of the technology, the subject, I'm also talking about an evolution of myself. While I joined, we were a company which was called as Alit, and today we are called as HGS, which is Hinduja Global Solutions. And those days it was called as Ashok Leyland Information Technology. That's the company which I joined then. True to the vision of the company and the mission statements of the company has really grown to the extent what we are today. And we are all valued by the company, the CEO, the board, very well. And that makes very important for all of us to really be working in a company with what we are and what the position we are in today. So thanks to the Hinduja Group, thanks to the forum of the contact center, because it's very important that you need to really have the right business. You need to choose and be in. And fortunately, and I always say, God's grace, I have an excellent team which is available with me, which have worked with me. The credentials for me really goes with my team. That's how I always believe in, and I always take the responsibility is mine, the authority is my team's, and that's how I have worked. And like what MD said, I remember when he came in for doing an evaluation, fortunately that we were selected by him also, and we were shortlisted and selected by him. And then we started executing the business for a number of years. And off late is what we really exited the domestic business in Hinduja Global Solutions. Just a quick numbers before I really go into HGS. We are 38,000 plus type of people, delivery centers across 64 locations in multiple geographies. Our strategy has been, like I keep speaking on, a right shore strategy. It started with offshore, then it became onshore, then we started doing near shore, and now we are on a right shore type of strategy. I think these are the ways which we have really grown in terms of number of people. I told you, in terms of the capacity, in terms of the revenues, what we are 700 million plus in revenues as a company. And we have our delivery centers predominantly in voice speaking is in Philippines. We have it in Canada, we have it in US, we have it in Jamaica, and India being a huge amount of non-voice business. With that introduction about HGS, I will straight away start going to what I want to really speak about today is completely on the trends of technology, what we have seen. All of us have seen, I'm sure a lot of team members here and participants here, from what I heard from MD, will always have seen a lot of technology evolution. I'm only trying to present my views. I'm no way an expert. I will be happy to really hear of the views from everybody. And I would love to really have an interactive type of thing. I'm sure I'll be very happy to really take views, comments, questions. And I'm not saying that I know everything. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. So I would be very upfront in stating things like that and state that, okay, these are the ones I think we will be able to follow on and then come back to you. So probably MD is also a very great expert in customer service forum. Both of us will collaborate and we will come back. So with that, I will straight away jump on to what are we looking at on the priorities on 2020. Again, will this change after COVID or is it the same? A lot of it will get fine-tuned, but does it really remain on these bullets? It will certainly be on these bullets from what I really want to say. Because if you really look at redefine and adapt processes to ensure benefits of emerging technology, that's the bullet. If you look at emerging technology, technology is one of the things which you look at. We always keep saying all of us need to be upskilled, right? Technology all of us in technology field have to continuously be upskilled, right? Whether it is required or not for any other domain. For example, even now we have seen whether it is a legal domain, whether it is a tax domain, everybody need to really remember every other possible clauses which are available. For us, we need to not only learn the technology, we need to adopt to the technology, we need to be ready for embracing the changes in the technology and start ensuring that you leverage these technologies and implement solutions, because you may not be in the position what we are in as a CTO, you may not be an inventor of those technology, but you need to embrace, adopt, and then start deploying solutions using these technologies, take it to your customers to really win a lot more businesses. So if you really look at refining and adapting processes with the technology, imagine the amount of I don't want to call it as challenges, I want to call it as opportunities, what a CTO CIO has. I think it's huge. It's a vast field. We will not be able to really do a justice on the number of slides, what I've really put in some 25, 28 slides. This is a vast field. Whether you take, if you really start streamlining it, each, like if you take a compute, if you take a network, if you take a voice, if you take a cloud, if you take a telecom, if you really take end to end, every area, there has been huge amount of technology evolution which has happened. I'm trying to just give some amount of tips, what I have really seen and what have we really implemented. And I would definitely see a lot of people who are in the forum will be wanting to comment on it, and I'll be open to hear and discuss about the points. Next, if you really look at reinvent IT as a collaboration engine, if we really look at IT is gone are the days which typically people used to say IT makes the decision, IT is not allowing something to happen. IT has to really collaborate with business, because alignment with the business and working with the business where they have a lot more priorities on the business, all of us need to really collaborate with the business leaders and try to see what technologies we need to really pick up and then get on. And I'll also tell you very frankly, a lot of the companies really say that, yeah, CIO, CTO, right? If we look at this itself is a clear definition. A lot of companies, while the contact center technology started off, it used to be its common role. It used to be the same role people used to do. Over a period of time, we have seen the evolution in that also. The companies do have a CTO role and a CIO role, largely because a CTO hands are absolutely full by the verticals which I spoke a few seconds ago, because he needs to really manage all this with his team. Similarly, the CIO's hands will be full if he has to really look at, let's take an example of an AGS, if it is an enterprise IT, anything to do with the corporate IT applications will be a huge amount of work for the CIO. Similarly, CIOs also will start collaborating with the business to look at what are the new technologies and what are the new applications which we need to really go in, start trying to really market down to the business, be with the business leaders, the sales team, client services team. There's a huge amount of collaboration that is purely during the stage of where we need to really acquire the business. Moving forward, if you really look at when we start after the acquisition of the business, the transition is done, the business is running as usual. That doesn't mean that, okay, we are sitting back. Again, the collaboration starts, because the collaboration continues to run with the operations people, because we need to work with the operations team to understand what are the day-to-day challenges they have. What are the businesses, what we are running? For example, we as HGS, we run over 50+% of our business runs on healthcare, which is for the US market. We do a lot of payer provider business. We need to start understanding the challenges. What is the season where they are going to really ramp? When is that which we need to really work with them? Is it just simply saying, okay, they've got another 50 seats business, can I go and put 50 desktops? It will not. We need to really align with our own team. We need to align with the operations team. We need to align with the client's IT team, because this collaboration extends beyond our own company. It goes to the extent of managing, working with the client's IT team as and when the size goes. Because there are companies who says, I'm completely giving it off to you, you manage everything. There are companies who will say that, no, you need to work in collaboration with my IT team and then try to design a technology. So it is like, if you look at for a third-party outsourcing center like us, we are companies in a company. That is why I always name that way, because they will have multiple customers having their own vision for their own company. We need to align our vision of IT. When I talk about our IT vision, which I need to really design, which I call it as business IT, I need to really design my vision of business IT in collaboration with my customers' IT departments and customers' IT team. So this collaboration doesn't end with only internal, it is internal, external, not only with the vendor community, partner community, also with the customer IT team. There's a real clear mapping of the organizations which we need to do, which will help us to move forward. So the third point is very clear: acquire and retain talent for roles, because this is very, very important. I'm sure we have all seen in the current scenario what's happening in the industry. Retention is a big challenge. We have all heard, and it's a common phenomenon in the BPO industry, contact center industry. We will have this challenge. One important thing what I always, and I take pride of is, I'm happy again, is I have a team of people who are so talented. I will definitely be able to spend 1 hour like this on a call, you know, a CTO role, how it will be on a regular business day, right? It is the delivery of the business happening across the globe for 38,000 plus people. You have to build in your org chart with the verticals of what you spoke about and keep on fine tuning that, for which the key thing is you need to really have the right people, and retaining those right people is very, very important. It's not only in technology, it's very much so in operations also. I definitely said that we have people who have collaborated, who have worked with you within my own team. We need to work in such a way that we need to have the whole team working on. I always work in such a way that, guys, you guys make my team. So you make the decisions, you come back to me and come back with 3 options. We will really choose what is really fitting in with the intellectual questions, what we need to ask based on the businesses, based on the interactions, what you would have had with the market, right? It is very important for us to really retain the talent. And again, the first point is also very, very important. Acquire the right talent, because as we keep going, if we keep thinking that, okay, I know most of the things, I don't want to really learn. As I said, learn, unlearn, relearn. These are the three important subjects which we are all looking at in this industry today. We have to really look at, okay, what is that which we learned? What is the technology which has gone obsolete? Just unlearn that. Then start looking at what is that which we need to relearn. It is at all levels. It is not only at an engineer level who's trying to install a Windows on a Dell machine or a Mac OS, even to the level of the CTO, he needs to really get on what are the technologies which will work well, what are the compatibility. While he's trying to really do a budget also, he needs to really get on to asking the right questions. So acquiring the right talent and retaining the right talent is very important. I have always believed in acquiring talent as talent. When I mean is I want to really hire people who definitely are more knowledgeable than us, because we are the ones who need to, as we go up the ladder, the skills or the activities, what we do by ourselves is lower, but what we get it done is higher. So we need to have people who will be challenging you to really hire. And that's how I have believed in good, that we are able to acquire and retain good set of people. Nobody can really get out without having this cyber security and cyber resilience. We are all seeing the challenges what we are today. Everybody used to come to the office, and typically in a BPO type of industry, you're rubbing shoulders and trying to sit in the office, and you are so much used to really raising up your hands and saying up that you want to really talk to somebody. Some agent will come, some team leader will come, he will talk. All these used to happen. So gone are the days that you will not, people are all working from home. Like I was talking to one of my clients in the US, if what he was trying to say is, if we go back and try to outsource and say, can you start on 20,000 people work at home? You will start giving us a 6 months plan, right? But today what has happened with the pandemic happening, people have really made all the 25,000 people to really work at home in the initial 7 days or 9 days and 10 days, and then start improvising the whole thing. When that has happened, you need to really think of your cyber security, because you cannot really compromise on that. You need to continue to have all the compensatory controls, what you really think can be achieved by shifting your workplace from office to home. While you're really shifted that, there is a huge amount of activity and huge amount of monitoring. It again depends on the maturity of the organization, maturity level of the customers, and the connect with the customers, which I earlier spoke about collaboration. If we have really connected with the IT team of the customer, we will be able to really transition it at any point of time. And the collaboration with the IT team of the customer's organization will help us to really say, these are the things which you do, and these are the controls. We will still work together, and these are the IP address range. This is how we will work on. These applications can go. These are on cloud. These are on-prem. These are the web portals which I'll open. These are the ports I will open. Let's start working together. So I think cybersecurity and resilience is a very, very important need, and that's going to be a real priority. And now more with pandemic and not knowing the new norm in the USA world, we need to really look at how will we regularly keep looking at cybersecurity and improving every day. If somebody comes back and says that, do you have a budget for a cybersecurity? Every company will have it. If you really go and try to give a perfect use case, and if there is something which is need to be proven to the management, it's very easy, because certainly all of us will really look at, okay, if I try to protect this, this is what will happen. It is not that we need to only have enough of tools. We need to have the right implementation. We need to have regular audits being done by multiple parties. It's not that we are signed up with one single party and say that, okay, I've done a third party audit. I think we need to be ready for any sort of audits. And again, in the current scenario, the amount of activities which is being done by our SOC team, which is again sitting out of home and trying to monitor, is huge. And all of us know the challenges what we have, because you would have had a VDI strategy, or you would have a desktop strategy. You have sent a desktop home. You'll be running Windows 10. You have a patch coming in, try to load. You have no bandwidth, no or low bandwidth. You need to work it. So I think challenges are galore, but we need to really see how do we fine tune it? How do we really work with it? So that's very, very important for us to really do that. I am not able to really see the last line. It's basically trying to clear. I think you changed the mode, Shraddha. I'm not able to see the last line, creating a wow factor, because it's very important for us to really create a wow factor for our own employees and for our customers. It is very important that if you don't have that, you will not be able to retain customers. We need to be with them at all point of time. The more we are with our customers, they will be able to really come back and help us out, whether in this time or any of the times which we have, even in pandemic time. if we need to really collaborate with them, and if we have created a wow factor, they will help us out to do anything we want. I'll just give a pause here on the slide, MD.
Yeah, a couple of questions on this, Subbu.
Yeah.
You talked about technology going obsolete quickly, and people need to kind of keep up with it. Can you, just for the audience over here, can you give us a quick example of a piece of technology which just kind of went out of vogue and something new came in the last 10, 15, 20 years?
Actually, I have it in some of the slides, but let me try to cover. No, it's fine. I think you have brought it up. It's better that we address. I don't want to keep something till the end because you may even miss out. Let me talk about something which all of us know very clearly. MD, I'm sure you also know, while we started speaking about for one of the large contact center, large telephony operations, which is down in India or elsewhere in the world, while we were all connecting on T1s and E1s, which are the ISDN PRI links which used to be there, right? That whole technology has gone. I remember we used to really look at a D channel, whether a D channel is giving you a signaling, whether you have multiple D channels, whether you get a T1 in the US and you get an E1 in India. You need to really look at a 30 channel and you look at a 23 channel and try to really buy in a lot of, while you expand, buy more and more of ISDN PRI cards, plug it into the Avaya Nortel box, Avaya box and whatnots, all gone. If you really look at, everything has come to a SIP technology. Today, if we want to really take a call coming in, let's take an example of a point of presence, which you do have. It could be One Wilshire and 60 Hudson in LA and New York and somewhere in Central, wherever you have, right? While you have your links, PRIs coming in at both the sites, you used to have the challenges of typically, okay, I'm doing 500 seats. It's going to go to 750 seats. I'm sure you would have seen this in your Dell time. I will not be able to really do this because I have to really go back to AT&T or Sprint or Verizon and ask them to really provision the T1s. And then the technician has to come. He needs to use this punching, crimping tools and then try to do all this, right? His MDF block he needs to take, and he needs to get a permission to get into all these data centers to get on crimping done. It can happen over the weekend. You can't get to the rack. See, all these dynamics have really evolved over a period of time. If you look at SIP technology, what has really brought in, and companies like, now the Oracle has taken over. It used to be called Acme Packet, which got acquired by Oracle. The boxes, what we do have today, you will be able to get your SIP packets with absolutely no problem. And you are connected and you will be able to start ramping up and then route your calls between call centers. You will have it in Philippines, you will have it in Jamaica, you will have it in Canada or in the US, wherever you want. You will be able to absolutely route the traffic the way you really want. You don't have to really get on. And now the way it has come, you are able to really, earlier it used to be T1 days, you have no much of encryption down there. Today, you are able to even achieve an encryption on a SIP call, which you really do have. Encryption has gone to the level of not only soft encryption, you can do a hard encryption also. There are clients of mine who says, hey guys, you are on an MPLS, I'm perfectly fine. I want to have my own box, which you need to fit in your data center. I will get in my SIP and get it connected to your box. You carry it from there. So we have, and he says, and that needs to be completely encrypted. And he comes back with his own encryption mechanism is what we really worked on. So this is one of the examples in the hardcore telecommunication line. It's available in few of my slides.
Excellent example, Subbu. There's one more. Actually, questions are coming in already. So I'm going to just take one or two.
Yes.
Sorry, I know you have some 28 slides.
No, I am, as I said, MD, I can always run through the slides. I can go at any pace you want. You want me to go to slow pace, fast pace, whatever you want, but I would love to have the queries. And if I'm not answering, people can even comment on that and I will be ready to hear the views from them, whatever you say.
Yeah, sure. So there are two questions, especially with the work from home situation these days. One is, how do you deal with data security? I know you mentioned cybersecurity and cyber resilience, but how do you deal with it now? That's one. A kind of a related question, but more from a physical infrastructure point of view, is that, let's say, people are going to come back at some time, or you're going to have some people working from home, some people working from office. How do you allocate office space now? Because earlier, especially in the call center environments, people used to sit fairly close to each other, right?
Exactly.
So how do you see that changing?
Excellent.
Both I'll are just very valid. Two questions and then keep the others for later, by the way.
No, I'm fine, MD. So both are relevant, absolutely, in the times what we are in today. Let me tell you, in my earlier, some of the forums which I spoke in Bloomberg and NASCOM and so many things which I spoke, I call it as Osad Din. So I literally spoke about the first 7 days, which we really took a decision. And this is where I had delegated the decision to completely my team and say that, okay, guys, let's start, because all of you know the architecture, let's start deploying. The teams took a decision, means every geography, and we had every day 1 hour call with every geography. Our phones either way are 247. Now with this happening, it's not only the phones are 247, you have your phones, you have your laptop, you have everything being available, your bridges being available, and making everything work on. Coming to the point of security, how do you really manage? We were able to deploy over 20,000 plus people working from home. Were we ready? No company was really ready to really say. I can definitely say if somebody says that, no, we're all ready to work from home, I doubt, because especially ITES, I'm not trying to say ITES companies were not ready. Let's take an example of India itself, because in India, it was not ready truly to say if somebody is following the guidelines of the OSPAI, because I'm also a member and I participate very actively in that to really get the approvals. We got the approvals. We were able to really get through in the first early 7 days with the collaboration with NASCOM and OSPAI, etc. And then we started really designing, okay, while this approvals were happening, we started designing how do we do. One, all of us are really used to the hard phone technology in the office. It's not that everybody has soft phone, because some of them have soft, some of them hard. So we were able to go back, and thanks to all the partners in the industry today, whether it is Avaya, whether it is Cisco, whether it is Microsoft, whether it is Cisco, all of them, right? All of them really came forward and tried to offer, hey guys, this is pandemic time. Let's start working the first 60 days. Again, it's the business what they also will look at after 60 days, 90 days, it continues. They all gave us. They gave us a soft phone. We were able to literally load the soft phones and then dispatch it home. We were able to work with the telecom service providers to pick up the dongles and then send it home. The third thing, again, it's a collaboration with the company. It's not that it's my team alone. It's the collaboration in the company, including the operations. The third, we were able to really put a dual factor authentication. Fourth, if you have a firewall, what is right sized, you will be able to really build in VPN tunnels. So we were able to really build in all the VPN tunnels. We were able to have a dual factor authentication, and then make the dongles really go home, then make the agent, and parallelly work with the customers to make their applications open on internet with the IP addresses, which will be dynamic, but coming into our office, and then trying to hit the customer data center. Look at the amount of changes and the amount of dynamics which we had, collaboration amongst our own team members to really do. Networking guy, you do your job. Security guy, you do your job. While we were talking about the security, rightly what somebody bought out, we went back to the customer and said, see, today we are talking and we are sitting and seeing here. We are doing, as I said, a lot of healthcare processes. And we were able to see the screen, right? The screen may have some information which is confidential. When I mean compliance, you're not really able to take it off. For example, HIPAA regulations, what is there, PCI credit card numbers, etc. You're not supposed to really, when you're in the office, you have your cameras and you have a paperless office, you keep your mobile outside and come, right? But when you're at home, you don't know what's sitting around you, and you will be able to really, when I'm speaking to you, probably I'll be able to pause, or here I'm speaking, there they'll not be seeing, they'll be telling a number, even though camera is on, somebody may be able to record that number. So we have all derived over a period of time. I'm not saying that we got that in the first 7 days. Over a period of time, we were able to devise mechanisms and say that there is a camera, because some of the key customers, we were able to use a camera and then say, okay, we used AI on the camera and try to say if somebody comes behind MD or Subbu, automatically the screen is to go blank. So such are the technologies which we leveraged using AI, and went back to the customers, presented to them. They said, okay, start doing it. Otherwise, we had a manual way till we really implemented this for some of the customers. Again, I'm not saying that we have implemented for 100% of the customers. We are doing it because all of us know very well all this costs money. We have to go back and ask the customers to give money. You'll say, sorry, man, I'm not be able to give money. So we need to really work around, try to have acceptance, work on trust, and get the employee to sign off on a lot of papers, which our legal department approved, our customer legal department approved. Only then we did. Again, as I said, this is where the collaboration comes inside the company. So these are some of the mechanisms which we did, MD, for this. Back to the office. Sorry, you want to say something? Can I?
Yeah. Just on the same point, Subbu. So, I mean, I'm just trying to close this,
Sure.
answer to this question.
Yeah.
So, of course, in the office, you leave your phone behind and you leave paper behind and all kinds of rules you may be having. But at home, but for the fact that you can do some automation, like you said, some AI-based, watching of the place, you can't quite get to the same level of
security.
Security. Am I right? Is that
You're
fair to say?
absolutely right. That is where I use the word, if you're correct, MD, compensatory controls. See, 100% risk mitigation is, even when you are in office, it's not possible. And you have seen things happening, right? So risk will be shared, and then the mitigation mechanisms will be discussed with the customer and say, this is how we are going to go forward.
And you found, sorry to interrupt, Subbu, and on the same point, so you did find customers, your customers overseas, obviously, a lot more flexible to adapt the changes which you are proposing. Is that right?
Absolutely right. There were some customers, MD, I'll also tell you, you know what he said? I have some of the slides which I'll speak about. I have my social media, I have my omni-channel, I have my web to really reach out. I don't want people to really coming on at all. I don't want you to really take the business home. I am okay. I'm going to put it up in my website. You reach out on any of the other mediums other than voice. Some of the customers, I'll not be able to name those customers, but some of the customers really came up and told that it's one of the very, very popular electronics brand. They said that this is how I want to work. We said, fantastic. We are okay with that. If you really see, that was good for us. Otherwise, we would have gone and done all these, what I explained, all that will add cost to me, right? But we want to continue the services with our customers and give services to their end clients. This is how we did. So back to the next point, one point which you also brought out, MD, the phone, right? If we try to bring the phone in front of the screen goes blank. The AI has been done in that way also. Even the phones, even if you're at home, you'll not be able to do. We have tested all this and proved it to customers. Then they said, okay, start deploying. That's how we have done, right? Back to the point on when you come back to office, right? So when you come back to office, this, all of us know very well, in all the geographies, whenever you have a contact center, you need to utilize the maximum. We always say you need to have 1:5, 1:6, 1:2. You keep rubbing the seats. More and more you rub the seats, more the money all of us make, right? So in the sense company makes. But here we, in the current norm, something different, right? Nobody would have really thought through social distancing you need to have. So your square foot per seat, what you really have, you have a challenge, because almost, as I said earlier, it is almost touching, rubbing each other's shoulder. That's the way a lot of contact centers have been built. There's no choice, right? Because you need to put in more number of seats where you can get more business. But what has happened is we had started a back office also in some of the geos, because they opened up and said that, okay, you'll be able to start the business. So while we brought the business back, we chose to have an alternate seat left vacant. So that distancing is maintained. We had literally done, if you recollect, any incident happens in a road when the police comes back and puts up the tape. So we had literally put a tape between the seat and a cross mark and said that this seat is blocked. So that way we were completely able to have social distancing done even while they were in the office. One. Second, while they were coming to the office also, we need to, it's very difficult task, right? Even if one person catches off COVID and then we need to do, it's a huge task. So we need to take enough of precautionary controls even before bringing them to the office, checking them, doing every possible mechanisms, only then really allow them to work from office. That's some of the controls. I have a lot of it. I don't want to really take that time. That's what we had done, Ram.
Sure, excellent. Yeah, let's move on, Subbu. We'll keep we'll keep the remaining questions for a little later.
Whenever you want, MD.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Shraddha, next slide. All of us, this is very, very clear as what we speak. Next slide, Shraddha. Call center to contact center, right? All of us know it started off with this. If you really look at, this is how we have seen. And typically these are centers where you look at, and I've visited, and I'm sure MD has visited enough of centers across the globe. This is how we have really seen multi-channel, engaging with customers. These are very, very key. Punch client, right? You need to really look at ways we would have never even thought that this is the way it will really work. But in the year when we started off in the year 2000, we never thought it will go. I still remember while we have started off my contact center, when I give an example of a call center going back to that stage, I had something like an i3 box. Those days it used to be Interactive Intelligence. Now it has been acquired by, I think, NICE, and they have really shaped up the whole technology differently. Those used to come with a box, which used to be having your cards where you plug in and you bring in your ISD and PRIs and plug into that, where ISD and PRI in the US, and then bring it here, then bring your even lines, and then plug it to your call center and then operate. That's the way it had really worked. all that getting onto a single rack or some small servers is what we have really seen inside the data center. On the floor, all these people need not have to really sit through at all. They are sitting wherever they are, with the regulations being allowed, except for India, every other geography, we can work from wherever we really want to. We have seen multi-channel adoption really happening huge in the industry. And we have seen that evolved, and all companies, I'm not saying we, every company has evolved themselves. Whoever, there have been some on the leader front, some have been on the follower. But call center to contact center, this is the evolution which we have really seen. Next slide, Shraddha. So if we look at here, this is how I had written some of the bullets. So if you look at some bullets to really talk about social media, email, for the same telecom service provider in India and in US, we were one of the largest service providers to service them on email. So we were handling complete email process for one of the largest telecom service providers in India. While we were at our peak, we had over 600 people working on email. When we started, it was not there at all. Over a period of time, it evolved. And call deflection strategies, because every company has to keep thinking on this. And if we don't think, our competition will think and go and tell the customer, and the customer will say, you're not really migrating, you're not really deflecting the calls. Looks like you people are trying to only do more. You're not really getting more with less. So these are the ones which we have to really keep handling, which we did, which the whole industry did pretty very well. And if you really look at every bullet here has very, very valuable thing. Analytics, if you look at, right? Analytics can be at every level. When we started off voice, it was purely a recording. Now voice analytics, like vernacular AI who's talking, you have your call deflection strategies. What I'm trying to say, if I give a call to an insurance company, you will not know that it is a person, it's a bot who is answering. The bots have been built in such a way. Of course, huge amount of automation which have really gone in. If you look at all these bullet points, again, MD, these slides are available. I wanted to share to the people if they have. All of us, you are knowledgeable, I'm knowledgeable, the team who's participating is enough knowledgeable, but we have all these businesses being delivered out of the contact centers today across the globe. Next slide.
Yeah, just a question here. If you can just go back, Shraddha, to the previous slide. Yeah. So a couple of questions here, Subbu.
Yes,
so if you were to look at it from an agent perspective, I know this used to be a problem, earlier on. So just to share what's going on right now. When you talk about omni-channel, yes, you're providing many channels to the customer to contact you. Correct. But is it all available under kind of one screen in a continuous, contiguous way for the agent? Have you seen technology develop to that extent?
Absolutely, yes, MD. Right from the green screens, what we have really seen the mainframe being reflected here. And again, I'm saying that it is not that the screens have gone. Even today, a lot of contact centers, including our own center, because it is not our own maturity, it is even the customer's data center and customer's maturity, which makes a lot of difference in this. Because especially, like I said, we are a third-party contact center. We have companies in company, varieties of my customers. Some of them have really gone, hey guys, I'm completely on Salesforce, start using everything, which is the most easiest for us, right? There are customers who says, I have mainframe, I still want you to give me cost reduction. I want you to do automation. So imagine the amount of challenges which we would really have. Yes, that is existing. And it all depends on customers' maturity. And if we are allowed to really go back, because a lot of companies, if you look at larger size companies, some will have IT, some will have ITES, right? That distinction continues to be there. But a lot of companies have really evolved and has become an IT and ITES company. They will start managing and trying to say, I will own your technology, I will own your customer service, I will own your process improvement, I will give you cost reductions. The models which are really evolved are huge. And you're absolutely right. There were multiple screens, and there are some customers, even today, the agent will keep doing an alt tab, looking at multiple screen. And there are some customers who have not been able to really retire some of their systems. We have some customers whom we are servicing on our acquisition, which we did in 2006 in the US. Some of those customers, because of their own business model, they have just not moved. We still have to really maintain some of those systems for their sake and tell them the risks what are really continuing to be there, because we may not be able to give the same service. He will look at some other contact center and come back and say, yeah, they are giving a great service. I said, we will also give you, provided you have these things. So again, going back to the point, MD, the linkage with the IT team and the business on the operations, understanding this, how can I really value add not only the green light, red light being looked at, how can I value add with the operations people to see what are the ways I can improve the efficiencies? You know very well, effectiveness to efficiency, which is very, very important, right? Every agent is, it's again, gone are the days where they say, I'm giving you a target on AHT, right? Is it that you will be able to give a seamless customer experience? It is not that you get one call and you don't get another call, right? So you have to literally look at, hey, you call me for this, you're calling me for this, can I do this? We want to offer all this. If the customer is not ready, we will try to educate them, try to put them a technology strategy and take them forward. So we have seen all that and continue to exist in multiple ways.
Yeah, one quick question, since you have a bullet point specifically on NLP and ML and AI over here, how much of this has happened? You did talk about the fact that you don't even know these days whether you're talking to a human being or to a bot.
Yes.
And of course, I know you specialize in healthcare. How much of this has really happened? I mean, where somebody calls a healthcare company and you only talk to a bot without you knowing that it's a bot?
See, I'll tell you what. It's on the regulations also. You bought out the healthcare point, right? It all depends on, you know that typically the olden days of IVR, right? Then moving to a visual IVR, right? Then automatically a voice recognition engine, which is really coming in, and natural language process coming in. This is the evolution what all of us have really seen, right? Has it been done largely in healthcare? Not much, right? But when I mean, what is not much is basically just hear out my point. Is the bots answering there? Not much, because it depends on the type of calls. If he's really calling in, can I take a plan of this, right? It depends on how do you really pick up the call and you route it to the right set of people, right? Instead of right set of people in your call deflection strategy, instead of doing that, you will give him more and more information when he asks over a chat or a bot where he can really interact and see that whether we can clear off the call without even getting onto a voice, right? But we have seen in other verticals a large amount of calls which we will be able to do, which we have done. Airline ticket, all of us would have seen, right? Because while we go to United Airlines and try to do in the US, or here when you want to do a restaurant booking, which you look at, all these, again, it is region wise, language wise, we have really seen NLPs really coming up, and that has really been very successful. And there are some adopters who really have early adopters, some will wait, test, and then move, like insurance agency trying to take a policy and trying to ask questions. So these are things which can, whereas critical things which we need to really look at, an emergency which you have and you need to really guide them, you can't really go through that, and which never used to go through an IVR also, right? But so that's how it is.
Yeah, isn't it kind of counter to an outsourcing business, Subbu, where when all this automation comes in?
Yeah, you're right, MD. It is.
Subbu, you're breaking up, I think.
Also, you can't really over example giving a different pitch. No, Shraddha, are you able to hear me? I think yes. My signal is absolutely fine. I'm not heard.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're able to hear me back?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. Thanks.
Okay, so if you really look at some of the embracing technology because of regulation, some of the insurance company in the US, right? Even now, the cloud adoption is still lower, or the cloud adoption for a non-core is higher, but for their core, they are still not adopted to the cloud. Even recently, pretty recently, even before COVID, while I was in February in one data center with one large healthcare customer, he still has some 12,000-15,000 type of square foot of data center by himself, because he feels that no, we need to really have everything by themselves. So it all depends on, yes, it is counter, but it all depends on their regulation, right? Like I said, we are a third party outsourcing. If he says that, guys, you better follow this, we'll be more than happy because we are getting more and more business and we'll continue to do it. But if he says, you're not giving me a lot of suggestions, we will go back and say, hey, hold on. We are saying you, these are all the possibilities, what we can really do. But you have these restrictions, you open up these restrictions, we'll start giving you a lot more. So we have built a lot of automation engine. In fact, if you really look at for healthcare, the amount of automation, what we have done, which is again, when I talk about machine learning and AI, what we have done and using multiple automation tools in the market today, we have built huge. If a claim is coming in and it's a good use cases what we do have. You can do the adjudication, which happens automatically by an engine. Post adjudication is what the claims used to be thrown for the agents to be touching. What are we trying to do is we are trying to reduce even that by using a lot of automation. And again, while we build these automation tools, we will not be able to do it independently by ourselves, because this is a technology which is interdependent, because we are all connected to the customer's data center over multiple MPLS links. We need to go and run some of these bots in the data center of the customer, where we will be able to say, okay, we have run this, hence the number of claims have come down. So we are able to year on year go back to our customers, and that's a requirement today, that we need to start giving him reduction on his spend. That's how we are doing.
Great. Thank you, Subbu. Please carry on.
Thanks, MD. Shraddha, yeah. Next slide. So I think this bullet is very, very clear. It is not service, it is experience. I think it is very important that all of us know very well that it is not that we talk today and then we forget tomorrow. It is not possible. Was it possible? Actually, it was not possible even earlier days, but people used to really take it because, okay, it is almost like the earlier days of BSNL being there and BSNL being there, the monopoly being there. But now, if you really look at, you have multiple service providers. So then there are options that the people will really jump away if we don't really move towards an experience being created. I don't have to talk about this too much because all of you are in the customer's experience field. So that's how it is. Move, Shraddha. I think I'll try to run through some of the slides because I know I'm short of time. MD, I leave it to you based on whatever you want to control, you and Shraddha. Okay. Innovation and change. This is a very, very big bullet, right? If you really look at disruptive technologies, all of us have to embrace these disruptive technologies, right? On-prem, cloud, desktop, VDI, servers, which is available, storage, on-prem, storage, on cloud. If you really look at all these are evolutions, what we have seen. These are all innovations which we have seen in the market, right? Should we adopt to the change? If you don't adopt, you will not be able to be competitive. You will not be able to give an experience to your own employees, your own engineers who are really working. You will not be able to retain also. So you have multiple dimensions. You need to embrace the change. You need to really pick up the technology. You need to really start looking at innovation in everything what we really do. Innovation in service, innovation in technology, innovation in everything what we have really used. Next slide, Shraddha. I think somebody has raised a hand. DP, MD, it's up to you whenever you want to take it. Yeah. So omni-channel strategy, I spoke about it. I think it is very, very important. This is the most disruption what we have really seen. Yes, all of us really thought that voice will die. Well, voice will totally go away. It will not go away. From whatever I have read, whatever I have seen, I have heard that the voice will continue to be there even if it goes to 2025. But what voice will really come? Who are the people who are going to answer are the important thing. For example, you may have an expert sitting and answering. I will give you an example in our own company what we have for voice continuing, because we have people who are really answering are the lowest end of the people who want to do the work have all gone automated. We have made a lot of subject matter experts. We have built center of excellence in our company where all these subject matter experts work together, try to say these are the ways which we can do a process improvement, a business transformation, then work with a technology team to really sit down. What are the technologies we will adopt to really see how can we do a digital strategy for a customer? So these are the ways which we have seen, and the people who are taking the calls are none other than nurses and doctors. We have people who are sitting and taking calls for doctors. Doctors are sitting and taking calls. Nurses are taking calls, which in the healthcare line. So that's the way we have really seen. Voice will continue, omni-channel, which everything which could be social media interactions. And we have, in fact, for a lot of our customers, we have a social media command center. So the new words, new technology as it evolves, we will start building up a new way of offering services to all our customers. We run social media command center for our customers. We will look at, because it is very important for us to really see how do we do that. Next slide, Shraddha. Shraddha, yeah. So if you look at omni-channel success, we have seen certainly happening. Channel choices, people have come in multiple channels. Personalization, it was very important. right from the first, whether it used to be a big job for us to do a CTI integration. People used to really come back and say, no, you need to buy a TSAPI license, you need to buy some other license based on every service provider what you do have, or every OEM what you have, buy these licenses, then you do a CTI integration, then say, okay, if my number comes up, okay, Subbu's number has come, so you're able to greet him with that. Right from those technologies being there, typically to say, good morning, Eric, how are you? It has gone to the extent of saying that context and persistence based on a lot of backend systems which we do have. It will almost say, hey, Subbu, hey, Eric, you called me last time for this particular thing. Can I really start suggesting something more on this? It has gone so much based on context and based on what is that which he has really done in the past. Does he really want to continue doing that? Based on that, it has really gone. Moved on to the integrations. If you really look at, again, there used to be departments in companies which used to run, and there are some companies still running it. Who owns the customer service? Who owns, because today, if you are trying to outsource or a crowdsource or an offshore or whatever it is, when you do that, your integration is required within your own company also. Only then you will be able to really derive value out of what you are trying to outsource, right? There continues to be some, in some companies, so marketing team will do their own job. They will say, I'm giving a social media command center to somebody else, and customer service will come back and say, I'm doing. Now what has happened over a period of time, all of them sit together and try to come back and say, hey, can we start working within your own organization and see what are all the integrations, what we can do, and what is the businesses which we can deliver. That's the way we have really seen evolution happening.
So
next slide.
Question here, Subbu. When you talk about especially evolution of technology, how does this really get driven? I mean, so does your client, I mean, given the fact that you're primarily an outsourcer, does the client actually drive this change in technology, or do you drive it? Or, I mean, where does it start? Obviously, both of you are involved, but where does it really start?
Exactly, MD. So it multiple ways. Again, it is not one solution for all. You know it very well. While you are driving some amount of offshoring, outsourcing with us, if you really look at what used to happen is you used to have your monthly business review, quarterly business reviews, etc., right? And then annual business review meetings, which used to happen, right? So what has happened now, it has gone to the extent of saying that what are the productivities which we can really see on a dashboard today, how things have got performed. So this decision making is so collaborative in today's world with the customers. It depends on what maturity level he is also in. If he has a vision to say, I need to just put a, which is very rarely any companies now exist, a tick on a box, I want to have some 10 seats running, which is gone, right? Then what you will do, they will work independently. Today, their customer organization, the customers really sit with us. Customers IT team sit with us. Customers IT team vision is done. When I say I keep going out and travel a lot, MD, what we also do is we go to the IT department, we go to the CIOs and talk to them, and we will have my business leader and my operations leader also available. Today, the set of people who really sit in a meeting itself, if you look at what has been done, which is if you really have a large meeting of a QBR or a MBR, whatever is there, technology guy will say, these are all the things which has done. These are all the improvement what we can do. Like we are all looked at service improvement plans. We will keep looking at what is the roadmap which we can draw together with the customer. The customer will say, okay, these are my investments. I can give you a beautiful example what we have done with some of our customers. You know what? We had a customer who came back and said in technology domain, he says, this year I will not be able to invest a lot of money on this. Can we really collaborate? Because the customer service department has budget. So what we did, we as customer service, means as our client services head, he and we collaborated together. We said, hey, just increase $1 per agent per month. Automatically, we'll ensure we give them the best of the technology. When we try to recover this, we will try to transfer the technology back to the customer. Imagine all this existed, but if we don't collaborate within our own organization and the client's organization, and the clients being open and the clients being transparent, indeed, that is very important. You know very well, if we don't have that level of connect, if gone the days which people used to go to a purchase manager and then say, I'm taking a purchase order, gone. The connect is at the level where right from the CEO is connected to the customer CEO, customer CCO, customer CTO, respective organizations are mapped. And every organization, if I take my own organization, my CEO has a grip of every account, what is there, what are the improvements which we are doing. His questioning is on that level. So it has become an evolution within our own company, customers' company, the meeting patterns. And again, we will pick the best practices. If we have done it for A healthcare provider, if we are looking at a B healthcare provider, we will try to look at what are the things which are not confidential for them. What is that which we can really replicate? Look at best practices, call that as a next practice for our customer and start implementing it. That's how we have done.
And how do you decide? I mean, once you have a technology roadmap along with your customer, how do you decide on, what you're going to buy, what you're going to build, and where does that come in? How does that cycle come in actually? Because there's of course costs involved in it at both ends. How does that
Very
work?
right. Very right. So again, while you rightly said we need to really partner, build, buy, or cloudify. These are the things which you really look at, right? Today, you will not want to really buy so much because you will also know, so for example, for our own customers, right? As I say, we have our customers with us, our NPS are 50 plus in most of our customers. That's the way we have really seen. And these customers have been with us for a long time, right? So while we have to choose the technology and the process of really choosing a technology, like I earlier said, this customer could have really lost out if he had not invested on that technology. That point for that particular customer at that particular point of time, because his competition was doing it. But we, as a partner of choice for them, we went back and said that, why do you want to really lose out on that? We will have a methodology in such a way that you don't have to do it. We don't have to do it. We will start paying it to the cloud operator for the cloud provider for the next few years. Post that, we will migrate it to you. Makes sense, right? So we have, again, it's not one solution. And again, I'll tell you another different one, automation, right? In automation, there's something called as a control center where we build, right? The bots, the bot runner will be there and the control center will be there. So the competition has also become collaboration MD today. Like it could be a Concentrix, it could be WNS, it could be anybody else, right? So the customer has offshored it or outsourced it to multiple partners, right? We will start working in such a way that we will build a control center where the bots are built and then hosted in that location. It is controlled by us, right? But it is hosted in the client's data center. Clients will start telling this is done. The claims are not touched or the calls are not touched only by you. It is touched by your competition also. Now you have built this, you're hosted with me. You need to live this back with me. I will start using this by deploying this for multiple partners of mine. We need to be open for that. And we are open for that. If we don't do, the competition will do. So we all collaborate in that thing. And then there are forums where you have also seen it in the past also, and now too, because some of the businesses which you offshored then or outsourced to us, where you are a consultant then, were really the icons of outsourcing, right? If you really look at some of those models have gone today to all the competition sitting together and discussing and seeing how is that which we work together. We have seen those also happening. That's how we have seen
it. Got it. So Subbu, it's 8:28. So go ahead. You may want to zip through the slides and then we'll open up for questions. Go ahead.
Done, MD. Okay, next slide. So I spoke about this social media, which is very important. Engage. When I mean engage, as I said, customer experience. We cannot really, again, people used to say, they will do everything and finally go to social media. That used to be the trend in the past, right? Today, easiest way for people to really go to the social media, right? Today, if I talk to my son, he'll say, I'm not going to call the call center. I'm going to really put a chat or I'm going to put a complaint over social media. Response will come. Everybody will start. So you cannot leave any customer behind. Protect. No mentions can be overlooked because somebody puts a comment. You need to see how do you handle it. Our social media contact center has a strategy to really handle it, and we have the right tools to really pick up and start working. And especially in verticals like consumer products, consumer goods, electronics, where retail, you need to really be very, very cautious about everything what you really do. No mention on any or you cannot really overlook anything, right? No insight is too small. You need to look at everything what comes up, because earlier it used to be the customer service representatives of my clients who used to do it. We are the brand ambassadors for our clients. So we will be able to look at everything what happens, and we have something called as, which has got evolved, something called customer advisory board. Okay? These are the inputs which we want to give it to you. It's up to you to really take it on. Once the customer advises, we also share with them. This is how it works. So that's the way which we have really seen on. Okay. Next, if you look at inform, which is very important, as I said, no insight is too small. Okay. The last one, create no moment worth missing, which is because every moment, every instance, what you create, every you have, it remains. It is not for today, it's forever. I think it remains, and that you need to really see how do you handle. Like I was trying to say, we take out some of the calls. Everything we don't say that we'll be handling it on a tweet or on a Facebook. We'll start putting mentions. We'll see how do we really take that customer out and try to handle and then bring him back to the command center, and how do we handle it. So these are ways which the way social media command center operates. Next slide, Shraddha. Yeah, so self-service, as I was trying to say, call deflection strategies, it's huge. Again, if you really look at some stage, it's almost cutting your own leg, but there is no choice. If we don't do this customer call deflection strategy, self-service, what we need to create, the more and more we create, it is better for you to really have your stickiness with the customer. And we have done it. And again, it is not restricted to frequently asked questions. And just jumping, if you really look at, it has gone to the extent of having a interaction, whether it is for internal employees or to an external people in the world. What happens is, if I want to reset a password, just giving a typical example, inside a company for a CTO's office, a NOC, the number of tickets, ITSM, if you really look at the way things have gone, we have started using AI for those too. How are the ways which we can reduce the number of tickets which are being handled by my own desktop technicians are all being looked at, and these are all built and these are all available today for not only us, for all our customers. Again, not only by us, every other competition in the world really has this. That's the way the evolution has happened. Next slide, Shraddha. So again, if we look at the, again, I mentioned here purely how the evolution will happen, how it has really caught up. A lot of companies, and I've heard companies which are saying that I don't want to really have a call center at all. I will only go through the self-service. I will only go through the web. And if at all it is really required, I have my brand ambassadors who are really key guys who will take it on. And the way which we have really seen, we have some clients where we have put up the videos to the customers and say that use this step, this step, this step, and start doing it. So self-service is to the extent where we have gone down a huge amount of calls. I don't want to really share statistics. There are a lot of statistics available in the market. What percentage of call, what percentage of vertical, what percentage of businesses have really gone through. It's available. We'll all be able to work on. That's next slide, Shraddha. So this is what we have really seen on some statistics. Next slide. So BPO, BPM, this is a big coined word. If you really look at sometime in 2013 and 15 is what, if you really look at, this became very dominant, right? BPO became a BPM, right? So if I really have to pick up, all of us know very well, while it started off offshoring, it came for labor arbitrage, then it started becoming quality, then it started becoming innovation. Then they started saying that you start becoming our trusted advisors. That's the way it has really gone. And the business models have also got evolved. If we really look at, people really started people were giving us based on an FTE. Now it's clearly based on an outcome. Now even outcome has gone beyond. You say, how much will you be able to deflect my call strategies? You start telling it on that. How will you really move towards that? So we have all become transformation partners because we have the wealth of experience and the knowledge of the customers. We have really customers, clients, and using all those, we are able to really suggest transformation strategies for our customers. And that's how it has become a BPM. If you really look at automated and digital processes, I'm just picking up one of the things, automated and digital processes. If you really look at, there has been a huge amount of activities which we have done. So all of us know very well, digitization, digitalization. There are so many words which are really available. It all depends on every segment, every industry, how we can really do, what is that which we need to really go decide on, and what is the maturity level of the customer to really go to this level, and how deep is this pocket for us to really do. Based on that, we have started giving strategies. It is almost like being the big five consultings for advising them. we are able to really advise them and go to that extent. And that's where it really became a business process management. Next slide, Shraddha. I think we can move the slides. I spoke about this in detail. The SIP and TDM data is available. I want people to really read through if it's worthwhile for them. If they have it, ignore. Next slide. Shraddha, next slide. This is complete comparison. You know, just go back one slide, Shraddha. Yeah, if you look at DRBC on a SIP, it is so very easy for people to do. The last bullet, if you look at disaster recovery and business continuity, is so very important in the current world and in the current scenario and in all scenarios. We have built really using SIP. It is very easy for us to really build using SIP a DRBC strategy. Next slide. So voice recording, quickly, next slide, please. Yeah, it has moved from quality monitoring where it needs to be. Again, it is not that it is not existing. It exists. Quality monitoring continues to be there. Even that has moved towards a stage of automated way of doing it. There are cloud available tools like any of the analytics platform. You take Verint, you take, I didn't want to name, but I'm saying Verint, you could Nice, you could take Genesis. Any of these platforms you really taken, a lot of platforms are available from a manual mode. Again, just not to spend too much of time, I'll spend one line here. If you look at, our strategy is typically to say, one of our presidents in the US used to say, I don't want people who are sitting in a contact center who are not wearing a headset. That's the sort of strategy people used to really think in a contact center. Reason is, if he's sitting there and trying to answer, he's answering a call. If he's a quality monitoring guy, there is a possibility, and there are ways that you can reveal offshore even the quality monitoring, quality reviews, quality guidance, quality directions. Everything can be done from an offshore geography like Philippines, etc. And then now that evolution has moved towards using analytics platform, choice of words, giving complete information to the customer for him to make an informed decision. All that has really been done, which is also making a better CSR. If you really look at a customer service representative, that's why I'm specifically saying CSR is here. Customer service representative, he will be able to look at complete insight on the call. He will be able to hear out at any point of time. His instant feedback will come. Next day, he will with the improvised version of what he has really got. So that's the way the evolution has really happened. Again, it is not that the record exists, and the recording, using it for compliance, using it for decision making, have all moved forward. Next slide, Shraddha. Next. Very important point. If you really look at, a lot of customers have really moved towards this. I have my own set of customers whom we have moved to. There are a lot of platforms available on crowdsourcing. This is one of the trends which we have really seen, which is moving up the ladder. And it again depends on the maturity level of the customer and the systems and applications, what he's trying to use, and the knowledge base, what he has got. And this gives a lot more flexibility for the people to really work on. In fact, I have written one of the use cases also in the next slide. If you look at the models really get evolved, people can work from wherever they are. In India, it has not happened from wherever they are. Now it is really in the stage where it's going towards with the OSPI regulations changing. It is definitely a very, very good thing what we have seen on crowdsourcing. I have seen it with one of my customers. If they don't have to be anywhere, no overhead cost. While they are on transport, while they are on vehicle, they'll be able to talk and they will become brand ambassadors. If they know very well, people will be able to put in their own queries. They can always look at, they get the answers. If somebody is an expert who can really come in and that expert knowledge is available, he will come in and try to answer the more, and they will also become experts by really picking up more and more tough cases and start answering it. If you move to the next slide, I can give you one example which is there, Shraddha. If you look at one of the customers whom we have really seen, Unilever was one of a very, very early adopter in UK. And it's a very good use case which is available in a lot of websites who have adopted to crowdsourcing. Because I have seen the type of wanted to be done, and we were servicing, and of course they moved to crowdsourcing, so they started working from wherever they are. That's how they did. Right from, they wanted to really engage with people who have worked from home, worked at home with the different sort of washing machines, different sort of powders. How have they experienced it? What are the people who have how have they used it? Their knowledge base used to get built by people adding a lot more comments, lot more thoughts. And with all that, they have really gone and has been an early adopter on the crowdsourcing. That's how it is. And there's huge amount of ways available even for infrastructure management. How can we do crowdsourcing? Yeah? I have a lot of use cases which we have thought through. Next. Shraddha, I don't want to cover too much. All of us know the advantages of on-prem and cloud. We know elasticity, how we can do, where we can grow quickly. Again, I only say that a lot of companies have their own strategies. Some companies have gone early adopters. Some are cloud native, cloud born companies. Some are cloud adoption and then moving towards the cloud, the application readiness. There are so many companies who really do this. We also adopt, and we have also used a lot more applications. What can really go to the cloud for enterprise, for business, recommending them, working with them. How can we really add value to the customer in trying to move those? And we have worked with the customers to really say, we have built CRMs over a period of time. He moved it to the cloud. We have shut our CRM. We have gone to the cloud CRM. We are absolutely okay with that. We'll work in collaboration with the customers to work on. Cloud is the way to go. People are all looking at it. And today in the pandemic time, all of us have really seen a lot of agents whom we have to really make them work from home. We had to literally get to the extent of we were able to even allow BYOD. If we had done a BYOD, how will we really take care of security mechanism, bring them on a Windows virtual desktop, get it on a cloud, whether it is an Azure, whether it is an Amazon, a workspace, or whatever you want to call, or all the offerings available right from an edge getting on a cloud and servers going on to the cloud. Everything is possible, even the whole analytics running on a cloud. So that's the way which we have really seen. We have also seen the whole telephony being on cloud. So there are a lot of advantages. All of us know it very well. I don't want to really drill on this. Next slide, Shraddha. Next slide. I'll leave it because there's a data available. All of us can read through. Next. Exactly. So I think this is my last slide, which I'm talking. MD, I know I have held 15 minutes more than what we have to. No. These are bullets. As I said, if there was time, we can talk on every bullet, but all these bullets are available. I'm not going to talk on any bullet. I will be open to really hear from you. MD.
Yeah. Actually, a couple of questions have come up. One is a very interesting question, which is actually directed to a person like you, a CTO, in terms of how you make decisions. When you actually look at technology systems, you could have possibly two situations where you have a big, large provider which is giving you solutions across all channels, or you could have a bunch of startups who specialize in one channel at a time. Like one is on email and one is on chat and one is on voice and so on. How would you go about deciding? Would you actually go for one guy who gives you everything? Or would you partner with 5 guys who give 5 different things, but very good at each one of those?
Excellent question. Very good question, MD. I think there is no bullet answer. Very, very clear about it. How do we really do? One, even see today, it is no more choosing a partner. It is no more choosing a product. You are choosing a relationship. Like you are trying to say customer experience and not a customer engagement and not an experience. Similarly here, you're trying to choose a partner. The number of activities which we need to do while we choose a partner is he may be very good in something, but does he have a future? Does he have a wherewithal for him to really continue to sustain and support us while we really are in trouble? One. Second, within our own company, do we have a capability which we are built or can be built if the partner really lifts up his hands? Will we be able to really take the source code, start working on, or how easy for us is it to really move to another platform? If I go with one platform and I get stuck, how will I be able to eject and come out? I think it's not, as I said, one answer. It is absolutely relevant question, but no clear answer to really choose. I have one who have tried out with multiple companies which are specialized in areas, but I have always ensured that my connect is with the MDs of the world. That means the managing directors and the CEOs of the world of that companies, where I know what their vision is, how have they really done, because ultimately it is people to people connect where we have already done. And if we are confident that the solution will work, and if your team has gone through, and if you have really done a lot of evaluation, and also one last point is, if you have that customer also if there is a possibility of involving customer and choose making this decision, it's the best way to really do, because there is a skin in the game. That's very important. Second, a partner, if we as HGS can we really ensure that this partner can be, we can have some skin in that game. So can we really, like a lot of companies, can we go and put a small stake in that company and see that we still have something, so that they are also very clear. And again, it depends. Like it's not a one solution, because if he becomes a partner with HGS, probably he'll not be able to go and sell it to any other contact center. That will be a problem for him. So you need to really evaluate, how do we really do? And if there is a possibility of making the customer being a part of it, the best, and it is slowly try it, test it, only then go forward. That's how we can really say.
Yeah, okay. Just two questions we're going to take. There are a bunch over here, but I'll just go with the two. One is a very simple one, or rather it's a short question. With all the working from home model, Subbu, you must be facing it with your employees as well. A lot of people have connectivity issues, low bandwidth issues. So how do you see that kind of getting solved in the Indian context?
So I just missed out the challenge. I know in the Indian context, work from home will continue. And if you ask us today, has any company know when are we going to really go back to office? It is very difficult.
No, the challenge is on bandwidth, because many homes really don't have the bandwidth required.
Exactly what I missed, because that was a bandwidth challenge for me. If you really, that word I missed, because that was a bandwidth challenge, right?
Yeah, so that's the question.
If you really look at MD, it is very, very difficult. At least I can one thing tell you, a lot of service providers have come out with a lot of options, right? If there is a possibility for extending an MPLS to a home, we have done that. I'll give you one of the large service providers whom we adopt, again, not to name any specific guys, any specific provider. He has extended his MPLS and he has bought in erected towers, erected a pole, not a tower, at home, where you will be able to have a consistent bandwidth. Because for all this, it is not that you want a bandwidth, especially for a voice or anything, you want a consistent bandwidth. Like just now what you were trying to say, I was able to hear, but if it is a data, you can really pick it up, because you can always mix the words and you can start thinking, right? But if it is a voice, I missed the right word, because the bandwidth was a word which I exactly missed, right? So you need to have a consistent bandwidth, for which, for a lot of agents, what we have really done, where we know it is very important if he's handling voice, we have ensured that we have extended that MPLS to the home and started giving them 8 meg, 10 meg consistent bandwidth. And few of the other people who are doing data, we have told them, either you continue to use your broadband, and if the broadband really doesn't work, we'll give you a dongle. And all of those have really worked. Again, it is multiple ways which we have really solved, because we don't do much of voice in India. We do a lot of data in India. Wherever we have done voice, whereas in Philippines, again, we have voice. Philippines is not different. There also we have voice challenges. We have addressed in the ways which I really stated in Philippines. Whereas in the US and Canada, it's far mature. So I hope I answered MD.
Yeah, I think that's good enough. Subbu, last question, and after that we'll let you go. This is an interesting one, which is the situation of companies using, kind of disparate multiple systems, where data gets and lots of data is getting collected in all these different systems. So is there a potential business and operational model of putting all this together as one massive repository for an outsourcer like you?
Very good question. But a lot of security restrictions will exist. And again, in the evolution, what we have really seen, whoever asked it knows it very well. Because while we started off this contact center business, people used to say, CRM, you're not going to do anything. The customers used to really come back and tell me, to the extent of a desktop, a BIOS version, a firmware version, and model, everything he used to say. And then he said, your screen is completely not available for anything other than this. You only have masked up to this level. So that's the level of security what we have really seen. And we have also seen the call recordings being, for example, I'm just trying to say, because it got a lot of insight and information which is available. The customer and again, confidential information, which is for the clients, which is based on regulatory requirements, right? HIPAA regulations, etc., social security number, all this. We will just not be able to even store the calls in an offshore region. We have seen to that extent of customers where they are told very clearly, you do all your calls, you receive your calls, but the call recording has to be available on onshore. That's in the US only. And again, I'm not saying that are they stuck, are they doing only that? I'm seeing slightly people moving aside and saying, okay, onshore is fine, but put it in an onshore, I'm okay to take you to the cloud. So tell me which cloud. I want you to really show me if it is an Amazon cloud. I need to have a contract of yours shown to the Amazon cloud. So we have seen some amount of leeway being given by customers, but the repository of the knowledge, the skill sets, the experience, the SMEs really having all their knowledge with them are the ones which we are able to really put it and call it a center of excellence, and trying to share this with new customers, potential customers, existing customers, and try to implement new practices. Build automation engines using knowledge base. Those were possible because this was available. But can we directly use any of those and try to really replicate? Definitely not, because nil customers will allow us to do that. Hope I've answered.
Yes, thank you so much, Subbu. Let me now hand over to Shraddha. We've actually taken 20 minutes more, but people have hung on. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shraddha,
I'm sorry, Shraddha. Before you say, I'm sorry, I took another 20 minutes extra. That's
not at all. It's not at all our pleasure.
Rather, we would like to thank you, Subramania and MD, for this very insightful session. To all the participants, we will be starting a virtual fireside chat series from 27th of August. So if you've been enjoying our webinars, do join us for our first fire chat. It will be with Mr. Jairam Karthik, who is the Senior VP of Strategy and Customer Experience at Tata Sky. To repeat, we are hosting it on the 27th of August at 7:30 p.m. IST. Registrations for the event will open on Saturday, and for details, you can visit ccof.in. With that, over to you, MD.
Oh, what can I say? That was fantastic, Subbu. Thank you for taking out the time and answering all the questions which we had. And in fact, I could not complete all the questions. I've left a few behind. Want to let everybody know that the recording of this session will be available. We'll be sending out emails. It will be there on YouTube. We'll send out emails with links, as well as I think Subbu's agreed to share the deck as well. So we'll put that out somewhere as well and share it with all of you. Once again, thank you, Subbu. Wonderful having you here. And thank you, Shraddha, for hosting this event. And
also available. Want to say something? Pleasure.
And the last point is that I want to once again thank Vernacular.ai, who partnered with us on this event, and they are a voice automation company.
Thank you, MD. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great day for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night and stay safe. See you next time.
Thank you. Stay safe. Bye.